Alright, so nagbabalik tayo sa ating violin tips and tricks. And for today's video, I want to talk about should you be practicing today? Yan. Yun yung topic natin. Should you really be practicing? Especially for adult beginners, no? That have jobs and other things going on in their lives. Yan. Siguro applicable na rin to with those teenagers who are trying to get into music schools, ganyan. Kailangan ba talaga super sipag mo? Or should you be working more efficiently rather? Yan. So, when we talk about practice, I think the most talked about aspect of practice is how much time you spend. And, people think na the longer your practice time is, the better you get. Kasi we have this concept of the 10,000 hours ba that you need in order for you to master a craft or something like that. But there's no shortcuts. It's a process. Practicing is a process of being able to digest what you've learned, no? Mentally and physically, how your body reacts to what you are practicing and how your mind reacts with it as well. No? So, you can't really put in like 10 hours every day para ma-reach mo yung 10,000 hour goal and expect na gagaling ka na talaga. No. Why? Because it's not only when you hold the instrument that you are practicing. No? You have to take that into consideration na you have to understand more than just keep on doing it. No? Kasi syempre, kasama yung repetition. Don't get me wrong. We need repetition in order for us to retain. But we don't need so much repetition that it becomes hindrance na. No? Nagiging struggle na. It causes more harm than good when you're practicing too much. No? So, if you are someone who needs to practice, why? Because this is your craft. This is your this is something that you love. This is something you do to earn a living. Of course, you have to put it in your daily regimen na makapag-practice ka within a day, no? So, daily practice. Sometimes you take breaks, yes. 1 to 2 days na hindi nagpo-practice. Minsan kailangan mo talaga yun. But, if you really want to be in a consistent level, of course, kailangan mo mag-practice. But, if you are a student or an adult beginner nga who just wants to play for fun, wants to play because you love music but you're not trying to make a career out of it, it's fine not to practice on a daily basis. Why? Kasi you still have a lot of things to do, no? Especially nga for adult beginners, like I have students who are working. So sometimes your work schedules can be a little bit erratic. So, nawawala yung lesson time, nawawala yung practice time, nawawala yung time to reflect on what you're doing, no? And that's fine, no? We all have priorities. And sometimes, the things we love can be prioritized because we have to earn a living, you know? But, of course, in a perfect world, kung gusto mo lang naman tumugtog at tumugtog na lang habang buhay, no? But we don't live in that world, no? Sadly. But, yeah. So, if you don't have the time, you simply don't, no? Don't get too parang guilty that you didn't practice for like 2 days because you had to run errands or do a little bit more work in your workplace. Don't feel guilty, no? Hindi yan malaking kawalan. You just have to get back on track. Have this understanding that you can also practice mentally, no? If you really can't get your instrument, hold your instruments, there's mental practice, no? You can practice while walking, while in commuting to your work, no? Running errands. Maraming ways to practice. It's not just limited to holding your instrument. Yan. So it's not about how much time you're spending with your instrument, but it's about how much time you are actually accumulating, understanding the concepts, the movements, everything that has to do with playing your instrument. Yeah. So it's totally fine if you can't really find the time. But of course, it's an integral part, no? Kasi, syempre, kung gusto mong gumaling sa isang bagay, dapat nagagawa mo siya, not just in theory, but also you apply it. That's why it's called applied music, di ba? Kasi, ginagawa mo siya. You need to do the motions. You need to run through the actions in order for you to improve. But, it's not limited to that. Maraming ang ways that you can actually do it. So, another thing is, especially for kids, no, I have reasons from my students saying that they don't have time to practice because they're so caught up in playing games. No, hindi natin maiwasan. They want to enjoy. And I think it's because they find that practicing can be a chore, no? So, for teachers, siguro, you just have to find a way for your students to have fun playing their instruments, no? And sometimes I ask them to make it as a reward. Parang, okay, it's like their task, no? Parang may challenge or may quest for them to practice. So, if you practice, how much time? Whether that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 30 minutes to an hour, okay lang. As long as you've practiced, you reach your goals, daily goals, then you can play. Parang, make it as a reward system for them to play games. Especially for parents, siguro pwede nyo i-apply yun sa mga anak nyo na ayaw mo practice. But don't force them. Ayan. Never force someone to do something that they don't like. Kasi it builds more, parang nangyayari doon, lalo lang nilang aayawan gawin. They won't do it because you're forcing them to. So I have students then as well that aren't able to practice, but if they want to, they usually, sabi nila, they wake up in the middle of the night in order for them to play because they want to, because they love what they do naman. No? It's just that if you force someone to do something, ayun yung kaya talagang nagkakaroon ng bad rap yung practice. That's why not a lot of people enjoy it, especially for the younger ones. And of course, people with jobs other than music. Diba? Ayaw nila mag-practice kasi pinipilit. No? Huwag niyo pilitin. Try to make it fun and accessible. Yung pagpa-practice. Don't try to think of it as a chore. Think of it as something you look forward to. Because you want to learn something. So, it can be hard, especially if nakatago yung instrument mo, no? Kaya lagi kong ina-advise din to always have your instruments ready. Your instrument should have easy access for you na. Nandyan na. Kukunin mo na lang. Tutugtugin mo na lang. Para, kasi minsan, you get this feeling of gusto ko mag-practice. But then, if you realize that you have to get your instrument from, let's say, nasa 4th floor ng bahay nyo or nasa basement, and then kukunin mo pa, tapos aakit ka pa sa kwarto mo, and then you practice. Of course, mahirapan ka na mag-practice. Because just the fact that you're going to get it from a faraway place, nakakatamad na agad yun. Kakatamaran mo na. No? So, you have to set yourself up in order for you to practice. Yun lang naman yung importante doon. And then, if you are in that type of mindset na gusto mo talaga, just give in. And if not, okay lang, don't practice. If you don't feel like you're gonna do something good, no, huwag ka na mag-practice kasi mafu-frustrate ka lang, maiinis ka lang. No? But sometimes you just really have to get uncomfortable in order for you to improve, diba? The same thing with working out. No? Sometimes there are days na parang tinatamad ka, but you just have to go to the gym, for example, or just lay down your mat and exercise. It's the same thing with your instruments. No? Sometimes pag ayaw mo, try lang. And then pag talagang hindi kaya, pag talagang walang pumapasok sa sistema, if nothing is really going into your system, leave it there. Come back again some other time. Kasi it's the efficiency. It's not the longevity of your practice. Hindi ganong kahaba yung practice mo. If you're practicing long hours and it's just plain stressful, you better just not practice. Kasi you won't retain anything that you learned. kung ganun yung environment or your mind during your practice time. So, your practice should be something you do because you want to understand something. It's not something to do to force you into becoming better. Because you will only get better if you understand or experience the right things. Kung hindi mo rin naman siya magagawa ng tama, wag na lang. No? But, always remember that it's still an integral part of your growth as a musician. So, it might not be okay on some days, but make sure if the days that come na okay siya, you really put 100% of your focus and your mind and body into practicing. Para mas marami kang makuha in less amount of time, less stress, di ba? With everything that's happening around us, you don't want to add more stress in your practices. No? And just keep enjoying the process. It's really a long process, no? As musicians say nga, it's always going to be a process that's never ending. It's very lifelong. Ayan. So sana nakatulong tong video na to. If it did, drop a like, comment down below more content you'd like to see, and of course subscribe to my YouTube channel. My course on Udemy is still available. Follow me on all my socials, links down in the description box below. This has been Ryan Monakil for Violin Tips and Tricks, and I'll see you on the next video.